Welcome to Cyber Threat Intel, your go-to source for the latest updates, news, and insights on cyber threats. Our goal is to arm you with the knowledge to protect yourself in the digital age, whether you're a cybersecurity professional or just curious about the threats lurking in the digital shadows. Make sure to subscribe now on YouTube or your favorite podcast listening platform to join us on the front lines of cybersecurity, because in the world of cyber threats, knowledge is power. Welcome. This is Cyber Threat Intel. I'm your host, John Good. This is episode number 48. And it's Tuesday, June 11th, 2024. If this is the first time you're joining the show, glad to have you here. If you're returning from another episode, glad to see you coming back to continue to get your cyber threat intel fix. It's always a good way to start off the day and stay current with everything that's going on. So always glad to see that. So with that being said, if you need to grab a snack or a drink, go ahead and do that so you can get through the show. And also, if you want to see all the articles that we cover, then make sure to head on over to cyberthreatintel.com. Again, cyberthreatintel.com. And you can find all the articles that we cover in the episodes, as well as some other articles that are important that are also worth a read and worth checking out, but we just didn't have time to get to in the show. So with that being said, let's go ahead and flip on over to my screen and let's get into the content. All right. So first article here is malicious VS Code extensions with millions of installs discovered. A group of Israeli researchers explored the security of the Visual Studio Code marketplace and managed to infect over 100 organizations by trojanizing a copy of the popular Dracula official theme to include risky code. Future research into the VS Code marketplace found thousands of extensions with millions of installs. If you don't know what VS Code is, Virtual Studio Code, VS Code is a source code editor published by Microsoft, used by many professional software developers worldwide. So yeah, VS Code itself, it's just a code editor. There's all kinds of different ones out there, but it is extremely popular. It's a free one that you can download. So that's why a lot of people will use it. Now, Microsoft also operates an extensions market for the IDE called the Visual Studio Code Marketplace, which offers add-ons that extend the application's functionality and provide more customization options. So you can download themes, you can download extensions. There's all kinds of different things that you can download to really just expand the capabilities of the product. And that's really what it's for. Now, for this, it says, for their experiment, researchers Amit Asaraf, Itai Kruk, and Idan Dardikinman created an extension that typo squats the Dracula official theme, a popular color scheme for various applications. It has over 7 million installs on the VS Code marketplace. Dracula is used by a large number of developers due to its visually appealing dark mode with a high contrast color palette, which is easy on the eyes and helps reduce eye strain during long coding sessions. Basically, there's different colors and just formatting of it. If you're interested in it, go check it out. But again, it's just a theme. It says this fake extension used in the research was named Darkula. So instead of Dracula, Darkula. And the researchers even registered a matching domain at darkulatheme.com. This domain was used to become a verified publisher on the VS Code marketplace, adding credibility to the fake extension. So typo squatting is not a new thing. We've seen a lot of attackers use this kind of technique and basically changing one letter in a URL. Like instead of Google, you would have an extra O or something in there, because a lot of people just mistype some of these words sometimes. And if you have those mistyped URLs, it obviously makes it easy to distribute malware or anything like that. And so that's really what they were going after here. Article says their extension uses the actual code from the legitimate Darkula theme, but also includes an added script that collects system information, including the host name, number of installed extensions, device's domain name, and the operating system platform, and it sends it to a remote server via HTTPS post request. And then it gives an example or a snippet of the actual code that they include in it. It says the researchers note that the malicious code does not get flagged by endpoint detection and response EDR tools, as VS Code is treated with leniency due to its nature as a development and testing system. Says the extension quickly gained traction, getting mistakenly installed by multiple high-value targets, including a publicly listed company with a $483 billion market cap, major security companies, and a national justice court network. Again, this is a very common and popular theme. That's why we're seeing so many installs in it. And especially with VS Code, one of the things is once you get VS Code installed, a lot of the things that happen or that you get from the marketplace, they're within that application. So again, they don't require a lot of super high level privileges to execute or to get configured, especially with like a theme. A theme is just kind of an add-on file that in a lot of cases with software applications, it's not an install kind of thing per se. It's more of just loading a file or importing a file into the application that's already installed on there. So it's relatively easy to do. That's also why it's dangerous, right? The article says after the successful experiment, the researchers decided to dive into the threat landscape of the VS Code marketplace using a custom tool they developed named Extension Total to find high-risk extensions, unpack them, and scrutinize suspicious code snippets. Through this process, they found the following: 1,283 with no malicious code, so 229 million installs, 8,161 communicating with hard-coded IP addresses, 1,452 running unknown executables, and 2,304 that are using another publisher's GitHub repo, indicating they're a copycat. So it seems like there's not a lot of due diligence with a lot of stuff in the VS Code marketplace, and that's certainly a concern. In your organization, obviously, one of the things you have to be very careful is what kind of applications do you allow to be installed in your organization? Because again, the installing of the initial application, the VS Code editor, that is where you're kind of opening the door, because a lot of the other stuff may or may not require additional permissions to install. And because of the product itself, and because it's from Microsoft, a lot of these tools that are preventing malware, kind of suspicious software, they are not necessarily going to flag anything that's being installed or added to VS Code because it's from Microsoft, right? It's signed from Microsoft, so we kind of trust Microsoft, and that's one important thing to think about. All right, let's keep moving here. Next article: FCC approves $200 million for cybersecurity in schools. The U.S. Federal Communications Commission approved a $200 million program to improve cybersecurity in schools and libraries. The pilot program will earmark money for the larger Universal Service Fund to schools and libraries looking to upgrade their data and network security equipment. In exchange, the FCC will collect data on the equipment in order to help craft a larger program for cybersecurity rollouts. It says the measure passed by a 3-2 vote, which is not uncommon as the commission often tends to split along party lines. Obviously, with any kind of political vote or anything like that, there's almost always a 2/3-ish kind of result. And whether that, there's a lot of reasons for that. We're not going to get into that, but that does seem to be the typical kind of thing that happens, or it just barely passes, which is kind of interesting because there's never a unanimous vote, it feels like. Let's keep moving in the article here. It says Chairwoman Jessica Rosen-Worcel, who led the charge for the pilot program as part of a larger technology funding package, pointed to those and other ransomware incidents and pointing out that not only do many schools lack adequate cybersecurity protections, but are also unprepared to deal with the consequences of an attack and subsequent data breaches. Absolutely. So these schools, they don't have, in a lot of cases, a ton of people that are dedicated to security, if they even have somebody dedicated to security at all. Sometimes it might be a system administrator or a network administrator that is doing all the things. And that's kind of a dangerous situation in any company, but especially schools. It says the recovery time, and this is a quote, the recovery time for the school district can take as long as 9 months, Rosen-Worcel said. So 9 months to recover from a ransomware attack. Again, because maybe one person is working it, maybe they have to bring in an outside firm or something of that nature. And 9 months is a long time. It takes almost an entire school year to recover from a ransomware attack. That's that is quite long, right? A lot of companies would not appreciate that kind of recovery time from an attack. Absolutely. Now, there's a quote here again. It says, our schools possess massive amounts of data about students, including their social security numbers, health records, disciplinary records, and other personally identifiable information, said Starks. So again, we're talking about schools. Schools get a lot of information because they need it for various reasons. And so they're housing that information. And so it's important that they are continuing to be secure and working towards a more secure environment. Next article, London hospitals say trainee medics are urged to help after cyber attack. Medical students have been asked to act as floor walkers, hand delivering blood tests on the shifts. So a critical incident was declared on Tuesday after the ransomware attack targeted the services provided by pathology firm Synovus, which we talked about that incident on this show. So services including blood transfusions and test results have been severely disrupted. In a leaked message to trainee medics at Guy's and St. Thomas Trust, students have been asked to volunteer for 10 or 12-hour shifts. The cyber attack, believed to have been carried out by a Russian group calling themselves Kilin, affected services provided by King's College Hospital and NHS Foundation Trust, as well as Guy's and St. Thomas's NHS Foundation Trust. Surgery and transplant operations at Royal Brompton and Harefield hospitals are believed to have been impacted, as it is the Evelina London Children's Hospital and primary care services. It's understood staff on wards are now using paper-based methods and signing blood transfusion bags. So think about that. If you're working in a hospital or some organization and you suffer a ransomware attack or some kind of attack, what are your backup processes? With something like this, you're having to do manual work, paperwork, those kinds of things. And that can be dangerous for your business, depending on what it is, because we've become so dependent on technology. And obviously, there's a ton of benefits for using technology, including efficiency, accuracy, all those kinds of things, confidentiality. And so, what does your backup process look like? If you had to revert to that process, is that going to be dangerous for your organization? I don't know. What do you think for your organization? It's going to come down to the specific organization, the industry, what you're actually dealing with, the data you're dealing with. There's a lot of variables in that kind of situation, but it does make you think, because here they can obviously do that as far as getting people to volunteer or putting people on those shifts and having them just walk around and kind of manually do this stuff. But what if it's a massive process? What if it's not that simple? That's something you have to consider and certainly be ready for, because it could happen to you, and then you're in a lot of trouble. So check out that article if you want to read more about that. But again, we talked about the initial incident on this show before. So let's keep moving here. Mandiant says hackers stole a significant volume of data from Snowflake customers. Security researchers say that they believe financially motivated cybercriminals have stolen a significant volume of data from hundreds of customers hosting their vast banks of data with cloud storage giant Snowflake. Incident response firm Mandiant, which is working with Snowflake to investigate the recent spat of data thefts, said in a blog post Monday that the two firms have notified around 165 customers that their data may have been stolen. Snowflake has said little to date about the attacks, only that a limited number of its customers are affected. The cloud data giant has more than 9,800 corporate customers, like healthcare organizations, retail giants, and some of the world's largest tech companies, which use Snowflake for data analytics. So far, only Ticketmaster and LendingTree have confirmed data thefts where their stolen data was hosted on Snowflake. Several other Snowflake customers say they are currently investigating possible data thefts from their Snowflake environments. In its blog post, Mandiant attributed the account hacks to UNC 5537, an as yet classified cybercriminal gang that the security firm says is motivated by making money. Again, motivation always matters. That can help us understand why they're trying to do this. The gang, which Mandiant says includes members in North America and at least one member in Turkey, attempts to extort its victims into paying to get their files back or to prevent public release of their customers' data. So again, it's kind of a ransomware situation. Or a ransom situation, rather. Mandiant confirmed the attacks, which rely on the use of stolen credentials to access the customer's Snowflake instance and ultimately exfiltrate valuable data. This dates back to at least April 14th, when its researchers first identified evidence of improper access to an unnamed Snowflake customer's environment. Mandiant said it notified Snowflake to its customer account intrusions on May 22nd. Security firms said that the majority of stolen credentials used by UNC 5537 were available from historical InfoStealer infections, with some dating back as far as 2020. So InfoStealer, something installed most likely on a computer system, stealing information, watching for keystrokes, those kinds of things. But since 2020, that's quite a while. That's pretty far back. That's depending on when in 2020, we're talking maybe 3-4 years here. It says, for its part, Snowflake does not require its customers to use by default or enforce the security's feature use. In a brief update on Friday, Snowflake said it's developing a plan to enforce the use of MFA on its customers' accounts, but has not yet provided a timeline. We've talked about that on this show before, that if you're developing software and things like that, you should require MFA by default, because that is a good practice, best practice, and something that starts to kind of help you just by default be ready to protect accounts. So we've talked about this incident as well on this show before, so we're not going to hammer too much into that, but go back and check the previous episodes or check the article feed, and you can find more information about what exactly happened in that situation. Next article, 23andMe data breach under investigation in UK and Canada. Privacy authorities in Canada and the United Kingdom have launched a joint investigation to assess the scope of sensitive customer information exposed in last year's 23andMe data breach. Joint investigation will also examine if 23andMe alerted affected individuals and the privacy regulators as required by Canadian and UK privacy and data protection laws. In the wrong hands, an individual's, and this is a quote, in the wrong hands, an individual's genetic information could be misread for surveillance or discrimination. Ensuring that personal information is adequately protected against attacks by malicious actors is an important focus for privacy authorities in Canada and around the world, said Privacy Commissioner of Canada, Philippe de Fresnay. Fresnay? Is that how you say it? Let me know in the comments if you know for sure. Article also says, in January, genetic testing provider 23andMe confirmed that the attacker stole health reports and raw genotype data of affected customers in a 5-month credential stuffing attack from April 29th to September 27th. The attackers used credentials stolen from other data breaches or compromised online platforms to breach 23andMe accounts. Upon detecting the attack on October 10, 23andMe started requiring all customers to reset their passwords. Since November 6, two-factor authentication has been enabled by default for all new and existing customers. Again, enable MFA by default. Good practice, best practice. The company disclosed in data breach notification letters sent to impacted individuals that some stolen data was posted on the breach forum's hacking forum and the unofficial 23andMe subreddit. Let me give a screenshot here. It says 23andMe told Bleeping Computer in December that the threat actors downloaded data for 6.9 million out of 14 million customers after breaching around 14,000 user accounts. So nearly half of 14 million customers. So this, just like hospitals, they store sensitive data. And so when you store sensitive data, you have to take extra precautions in what you have implemented as far as security controls and multi-factor authentication, all those kinds of things. It's just one of those things. It's like the sensitivity of what you're dealing with as that goes up, the more controls that you have to protect and be ready to, to protect. It's just one of those things. You can't protect data that is sensitive in the same way that you protect kind of throwaway data, if that makes sense. And sometimes companies don't always get that. Sometimes maybe even security teams don't even get that. Developers don't get that sometimes. So it's just one of those things you have to be cognizant or aware of, and you have to protect the data and implement controls relative to that sensitivity of the data, whether that's employee data, personally identifiable information, company proprietary data, whatever it is, you have to be cautious of that. So really important articles, just like always. Every time we talk about certain articles or just articles in general, there's always something to kind of take away from that and help improve your program. This is an ongoing effort in security. So you may not be perfect today, you're not going to be perfect tomorrow, but you should work towards that objective with the understanding that you're just not going to get there. But you should always be looking for continuous improvements and ways to always improve your program, because that will overall make you a better security program in your organization. So with that being said, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up for today. Again, this is Cyber Threat Intel. I'm your host, John Good. This is episode number 48, and it's Tuesday, June 11th, 2024. So hope you've enjoyed this episode and taken some things away. Check out cyberthreatintel.com if you want to check out the articles. Again, cyberthreatintel.com. And with that being said, I'll see you in the next one. See you later. Are you tired of overpaying for cybersecurity training? Are you interested in training from industry professionals? Are you looking for cybersecurity career services? If you answered yes to any of those questions, then cybertrainingpro.com is the perfect platform for you. At Cyber Training Pro, we're a one-stop shop for all your cybersecurity needs. We can train you for industry certifications or just improve your overall knowledge and skills in a certain area. Unlike other platforms, we don't stop there. We can also coach you throughout your career, practice your interview skills, or create a high-performing resume with our career services. CybertrainingPro.com isn't just another training platform. Students get exclusive access to our private community, where we go beyond training courses to provide additional content, tips and tricks, and engagement with both other students and staff. Look, by the year 2025, there could be as many as 3.5 million job openings in cybersecurity. With so much opportunity, why not maximize your career potential with a platform that cares about your success? Come join us at cybertrainingpro.com and start building your future today.